live via the internet. Welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. Chat live with us weekly via ispradio.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technology, providing ISP consulting, support, and hardware for wireless ISPs. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps. Mimosa Networks, providing high-density, high-bandwidth radio products. Advanced LLC, providing retail and wholesale advanced communication services by matching providers with your bandwidth needs. And by Sitel, providing reliability in surge suppression. And now your host for ISP Radio, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to ISP Radio. My name is Dennis Burgess. Stephen is out flying about this week, so it is just me, myself, and only I. We're going to be doing something a little new today since we have the brand new year coming up. We have a wonderful lineup of shows coming up. Let's talk about those real quick since we are on the topic. So what's going to happen this month? Well, we have Nathan Stuck from Whisper. He's actually going to be gone next week, and we're going to be talking about over-the-top TV. And we actually have some news in that front, some over-the-top TV news coming out today that we're going to talk about here in a minute as well. That's next week, again, same time, same place, Wednesday, January 14th at 11 a.m. Central. Again, we're going to be talking about over-the-top TV with Nathan Stuck. On the following week, this is January 21st, we're going to have NetSapiens Online, talk about their products and services, of course. And then the following week, we are going to have Patrick Leary with Telerad. That is on January the 28th. I even have hinted on that there may be some type of product announcement. Not positive on that, but we're definitely going to be talking with him that week and hopefully getting a lot of great information about the Telerad products, LTE, etc. So a really great lineup. We have some more things that we're going to be doing in the month of February and again go on and forward. They just haven't all panned out, haven't been committed to yet. So we're definitely working to bring you the best show that we can with some great data. In the news for wireless ISPs, most of you, or I know a lot of you, probably attended the Ubiquiti launch event that just got over, a couple minutes ago probably. That Ubiquiti launch event, launching their AirMax AC point-to-multipoint product. This gives us looks like some new sectors, some new AC point-to-multipoint CPEs as well. Some interesting points I took from that. Of course, we have the AirPrism only on the access point. AirPrism is their technology to eliminate or basically dynamically filter at the access point only the channel that you need to listen in on. So it greatly affects how much interference each AP will hear. As I said, new sectors, new CPEs. They're definitely looking towards the density arena, how to get more dense CPEs. Something else that I noticed that they did very nicely is on their air fiber products, we get this wonderful thing called capacity. And it's a little graph or it's a number that actually says here's what the actual capacity is. They have came up with a capacity both on an access point and a CPE level to basically give you, hey, here is how fast this connection should go in much more real-world terms versus the data rates or air rates that we have seen in the past. Those rates are open to interpretation. Also, they have a bar for, I believe it was airtime, how much the airtime is being used on the radio. This is all in the new AirMax version 7 software, so it's all created from the ground up, all HTML5 interface. Some other notes was that they have an AirView spectrum analyzer that can be ran while data is moving, so you should be able to run AirView, see the spectrum, and while your customer's still moving data. So that's always a good thing. Only downside, they did not really announce anything with IPv6 support. They said the kernel supports it, but no IPv6 support that we know of. And the other one is that currently there is no backwards compatibility with your current M series. That does not mean it won't change, but right now it is a AC access point and an AC CPE only. There's not a migration path. While I definitely think that they'll probably be working on that migration path, I'm sure that will come up again a time or two, I'm sure, and I'm sure they will get plenty of people in there as well. So what we're going to do here is we got a couple more news items, but what we're going to do is I'm going to toss this number out. We have a phone number. This phone number is 636-707-0074. Again, that number is 636-707-0074. If you'd like to be on the show, have a question about a show topic, give us a call. We're going to try to patch you into the session here, and we'll go from there. So some other things in industry news. This one's a big one. Everybody knows it's coming. Here it is. Here's the numbers. Here is the official dates. The FCC has announced Form 477 collection data. So basically from July through December, you will collect your data, and then from December 31st, you will have to March 1st, you will have that time to submit your data. So the next Form 477 data submission is March 1st. That is the deadline for that. So if you have or are needing to submit your Form 477 data, remember that it's pretty much a requirement by the FCC that you submit that data if you're running a fixed broadband provider. So make sure you do so. You can find tons of information on the FCC site. And, of course, there's plenty of vendors out there that can help you as well. Again, the next deadline is March 1st. After that, we will go from January to June, so that's your data collection period. And then on September 1st, you will have the deadline for submitting the January to June data. So remember, we are going to start filing Form 477 twice a year. So keep that in mind, all righty? On other news, we had this wonderful movie called The Interview. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say, was it a great movie? Was it a bad movie? I enjoyed it, but to each his own. The big thing for us ISPs is that this movie ranked number 1 in online sales. It has surpassed every other movie out there in online sales, reaching over 30 million just in the first 2-3 weeks. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing that a new movie that was released in very limited theaters, but was released in Google Play, I think Apple TV, and then a lot of TV broadcasters such as Dish, DirecTV, cable operators, etc., all launched their pay-per-view events as well, and that online sales and rental, $30 million. What we're going to probably start seeing is a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot more budget films that instead of getting a whole lot of traction in the movie theaters, we're going to start seeing them be released on online media. Now, of course, when we see that, we're going to go into the arena of, holy crap, now we have to stream that. So we're going to have more and more streaming, and I definitely believe that as time goes on, we're going to start seeing more and more online streaming, just as Netflix has had, just like now we have The Interview as the number 1. I'm sure there's going to be another one probably in 2015. Now, speaking of online sales and over-the-top TV, we have another product that's getting ready to launch called Sling TV. Now, this is actually from Dish Network, and Dish Network is going to be offering an over-the-top and video-on-demand live TV service. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be giving you access to what they call the best of live TV, and they're going to have things like ESPN, ESPN2, TNT, TBS, Food Network, HGTV, Cartoon Network, and Disney Channel, all delivered directly through the Roku platform for $20 a month. So in other words, if you do not have a Dish account, you can go to this new Sling TV service whenever it launches. I'm not positive that it has launched just yet. For $20 a month, you will get the best of live TV package that you can stream directly to your Roku through your internet connection. That package will also feature a whole bunch of video on demand content as well. So again, we're going to start seeing more and more and more video being delivered to our customers, just the way it is. So with that said, that's kind of our news segment. We have quite a bit. I hope everybody had a great holiday. We had plenty of holiday events here at my office, as well as several other systems. But today we are going to have a number of topics. We actually had a really great following and a really great follow-up questions with the service, the last session we had, which was bridge to routed conversions. And what I'd like everybody to do is, if you're online, go ahead and hit ispradio.com. If you're already there, click on the chat window. Go ahead and log into that chat window, because what we're wanting to do is to get some more questions and answers about doing chats or about doing bridge to routed conversions, or what's the best thing, bridged or routed or a hybrid of those. We also wanted to go ahead and cover towercoverage.com a little bit today. Towercoverage.com is, of course, one of our broadcast sponsors. And towercoverage.com allows you to take that Form 477 data. So what we can do is we can take your coverage area. And this is actually a real-world coverage area based off RF properties. Does not matter the radio brand, does not matter the radio system. In many cases, does not matter the frequency band that you're going to be in. And you can create very accurate RF plots that'll give you a very good idea of where do you cover and where do you don't. Well, one of the things with the Form 477 that's due in March, remember, is that we have the ability to take that data and to give you the census blocks that you would cover. Very, very important to have that, because those census blocks are important to the FCC. Now, just to give you a piece of information about the census blocks, there are about over 11 million census blocks in the U.S. So just because you have coverage in one county, that's not a big area. When we look at census tracts, which is what the FCC wants for the broadband subscriber data, where are your customers at? The FCC tracks, I'm just going to use an example. In my county, there's only like 16 census tracts, but there's something like 5,800 census blocks. So it definitely can get much, much more difficult to generate that Form 477 data and be accurate. That's really the big thing, is you really need to make sure that that is as accurate as possible. So towercoverage.com, again, they are a sponsor. You can visit them, towercoverage.com, imagine that, and they can get you all the help you need with that. Now, one of the things that I cover a lot, and I talk about this even outside of ISP radio here, but is the ability to use and collect what we call EUS, or end user submission data. Let me kind of go over that. If you go to some of these websites, and I'm just going to pull up, or I'll just say some. So Wi-Fi Midwest, which is WiFiMW.com, and you click on their coverage map, what you actually get is this little coverage area checkbox that has a whole bunch of questions. First name, last name, things like that. And what that allows you to do, and those boxes are part of tower coverage. It's part of even the basic account with tower coverage. Any paid account or premium account can have this on your website. So you can have a coverage map, or you can have the form. What's really nice about the form is you collect data. You get people that are interested in your service, and whenever you collect that data, what happens to it? That's very important, because it's your data. You want to know what happens with it. Well, the big thing is that we take the GPS location, we take the information, and within a few minutes, a EUS email is generated. And that email goes to you, not your customer. Your customer never sees anything from towercoverage.com. But what they do see is you calling them within a few minutes, because you got this end-user submission form email to you, and now your secretary or one of the salespeople can take a look at this form, and they can use this form, this email, to say yes, we can get you service, or no, we can't. And with that, they can also say, hey, we can get you service, let's schedule an installation. So the customer gets to see this awesome customer service, even if the person the salesperson is not an RF guy, what you're going to get, or what he's going to get, is he's actually going to get a recommendation. And it's going to say, here's the 6 best towers that you have in the 6 best sectors that you have. And based on these, we're going to say this looks like a good link. This should be more than sufficient to get a link. So now the salesperson who has no ideal or has not done anything with RF propagation studies will get a recommendation, and based on that recommendation can move on and move forward with that customer, get that customer going. Now, on the back end, you as the business owner, the person who's using tower coverage, you can go to your account, view your map, and then overlay, based on the GPS location that the customers are put in, overlay where these customers are. And you would be surprised to see how many places that these people get requests for service. So now you can sit there and go, hey, look at this. I get this big cluster of customers that wants service, that wants to get service. So now you actually have a graphical view. You can sit there and see with a graphic overlay of your map of where you currently cover what new customers or where customers are requesting access. And that's a very big thing. It's really good. It makes it very easy for everybody to get that information, to be able to develop, hey, where are customers wanting service? A really good story was one of our customers had a new tower. They used a coverage map of that new tower, overlaid it with the EUS, and got the names of addresses of all the customers that had previously submitted. It was about, I think, 60 or 70 of them that new tower would cover. And what they did is they started calling them. Now, these customers have made a conscious effort to give you their data to try to get service. So you give them a call and say, hey, have you found service? No. Okay. Well, guess what? We're going to be offering service in the next 30 days. You know, what we can do is take a deposit, and you would be one of the very first people installed off that tower. And they ended up having over 35 or 40 customers that put a deposit down that wanted service as soon as the tower went up. So before they even had the tower installed, they had customers wanting service. So it's a very good and useful tool for you to understand on how to expand your operations as well. So let's take a look at the, again, ispradio.com. Go to the chat window. And for those of you that don't have that phone number, 636-707-0074. We're going to try to keep it on topic again. Any type of bridge to routed questions or towercoverage.com questions, please feel free to ask and give us a call. That is what we are here for as far as being live. So let's hop over to the bridge to routed topic, or bridge versus routed topic, because this was a heated topic last time. We had a number of questions that came in after the fact, a number of emails. And the questions varied quite a bit from how can we convert from a bridge to routed, when should we use bridging, when should we use routing, and what are the pros and cons of those. And overall, these network design questions really come down to the size of your network, what kind of radios you have, etc. When we look at bridged versus routing, what we really have to look at is what the least path or the least performing device is. So from point A to point B, the fastest thing you can do is, of course, the slowest device or the slowest link from point A to point B. In that aspect, we also have to look at, when we are bridging, we have to look at things like packets per second. How fast is our network? How many packets per second can it run? In many cases, the packets per second is actually a much lower number than what we would consider a bandwidth limit. And that's mostly just because we have a number of issues with things such as radio, CPUs, things like that. But depending on your network design, you may have other options. So one option may be that hey, you have all fiber to every tower, well, that changes your network design requirements. Now you can put fiber devices in, fiber routers in, devices that can handle millions of packets per second very easily, and a bridge network becomes much more suitable or much more possible than something that has unlicensed wireless backhauls in it. So let's talk about what is good. Where do I go and where do I stand? Some design ideals, maybe. In many cases, what I like to do is I like to fully route what we call a backbone network. And that backbone network would be any of your wireless links between point A and point B. So if you're trying to go to or from a wireless link, whether it be licensed or not, it would typically be routed. If you have fiber, a mix of fiber in there, of course, those would be routed as well, because you want your routing protocol to be able to get and deliver your customers to that fiber operation or your fiber operation as quickly as possible. On the tower side, though, we still do routing. So the tower and all of your customers are still going to be routed. But do we really need to route every access point? In other words, do we have to have a separate subnet per access point or per technology? And of course the answer is no. We don't need that. There are things you can do in that aspect, because the difference in this case is that now you're going through a little switching system. That switching system being right on the tower side. So we have more ability to absorb network issues caused by bridge loops, ARP storms, things like that. What we would normally do is we would normally put our switches in what we call protected port status. If you have microtecs, you can do that in microtech as well. But the ideal is basically if you have 10 access points, you don't really want customers from one access point talking to the customers on another access point. Typically, that is not needed. Now, there are some, of course, very specific instances in which that is perfectly fine to have. And that's fine. If you want that, you can do that. It's not a big deal. It's not something that you have to have. But by limiting that, and then in the event of, or having an event that, hey, I do need to have two clients talk to each other because maybe they're performing a VPN or something, you can handle that particular activity on a one-by-one or a case-by-case basis. But most of the time, you don't really need to go out of your way to make those customers communicate, because most of the time, they're not going to be communicating. So with that said, those are some really great ideals I think that you really should be looking at. That you should be using these routers and bridges to affect path change. The other big thing that we see when we look at path changes in bridged and routed networks is what we call our gateways. Gateways should be as close to our customer as possible. The reason for that is because a gateway is the gateway to the internet. And closer we can put the gateway to the internet to our customer, less devices have to work for our customer to get a path decision. So the gateways, typically being routers, will make a path decision. Send data one way versus another. When we don't have that, we don't have any type of path decision. We don't have any type of intelligence in getting the customer from point A to point B. So if you have 6 hops and it's all bridged and the gateway is across all those 6 hops, any one of those devices can fail and you would not have any other recourse with the particular customer. In other words, that customer would be offline regardless of if it was the first device or the 6th device that had fallen off. So because of that, we have to look at how do we get that gateway closer. And that really comes down to routing. Now, how close should it be? In most networks, or a lot of networks that we handle, the customer would have 2 gateways. They would have a gateway that would be their local gateway at their CPE, and then the CPE would have a gateway which would be at the tower. Again, that means we're routing the CPE. That means we're routing the tower. The reason for this, again, is that if there is some type of break on the backbone or if there is some type of break somewhere else, we want the CPE and the AP to make that routing determination. To say, hey, I can't go over my main backhaul, but I can go this other direction and still get to the internet. if we do not have that gateway local. So if that gateway is, again, 6 hops away and that backhaul number 4 breaks, there's no decision that can be made, even if there is another path. Okay? Now you would be reliant upon some type of ring or bridge topology change, STP or RSTP, that would hopefully change and allow that gateway to become reachable again through another path. But there's very little intelligence in that. There's very little things you can do to make that intelligence in there. You can set some costs in your bridge pathing, but overall, it's very it's cumbersome compared to, hey, here's my default route. So I would typically always like to have that default route versus some other system. The default route would always be a much easier way to understand, hey, I need to go this direction versus this direction. And that's why I prefer routing. I think the routing aspects of it is much more simple. And the big fear that I get, and this was another thing that we get from some of our customers, is they fear routing because they don't understand it. But any other technology that you use, whether it be VLAN technologies or spanning tree protocol or rapid spanning tree or any other type of ring topology, are going to have the same type of learning curves. The difference is that you're learning a very specific technology versus learning how the internet actually works, which is routing. So my recommendation is that learning routing is no more difficult than learning these other technologies to mitigate or to provide failover in the event of. You still have to learn them. I think what many customers do, though, is they don't want to learn either or. They don't want to learn, or you don't want to learn routing, and you don't want to learn STP path costing, so you're basically at the point of, again, that 1 point link goes down and your customers are down. There's no failure. And as your network grows, you're going to find that failures are a big thing. You need to prevent them. You need to try to stifle them as much as possible to ensure the highest quality of networks. So, some really good points in there. I think those items are very potent and very powerful, and I hope, especially with the amount of customers that had asked about that, or the amount of people that had asked about that, is very important. So some other things that I have going on in the past couple weeks, we've definitely done quite a few 10 gig cutovers. The 10 gig cutovers are pretty straightforward. They're no different than a 1 gig cutover, just faster, 10 times faster, but not much difference. Lots of routing, lots of big projects going on. But as we know, we don't have, we're not getting a whole lot of questions. We're not getting any today. So again, I'm just going to ask if you have any questions about any of our topics. Go to the ispradio.com site. Again, if you are listening to a downloaded version, then don't do this now. But go to that site and click on the chat button. This is at the top, has the 2 little chat windows. Click on that, and you can just type in your chat or question right in there. If you do not have a chat window, or if you'd like to give us a call, 636-707-0074 is that call-in number. We'll be glad to take that phone call as well, or at least try to anyway, because we have to test new technologies. So I'm going to go back a little bit, because we had another question here, and this was kind of, some of these questions were from the last week's session, and I wanted to kind of go over them, because we didn't get all of those. Moving to an MPLS or VPLS network, is that an improvement over OSPF for throughput or IP utilization, or is there another benefit for MPLS, VPLS? So this is actually a really good question, because a lot of people think that this MPLS, VPLS is the magic all. And what we've found in the big telco arenas is that they use MPLS as a selling, hey, it's the latest, greatest thing, we have an MPLS network, you can get an MPLS circuit. In fact, most of those MPLS circuits are actually VPLSs, but that's besides the point. In the case of most customers, when we are looking at giving internet access. MPLS and VPLS really doesn't help us a whole lot. The internet is routed. This routed system will route just as fast through an MPLS circuit as a OSPF circuit in many cases. There was way back when MPLS first came out, the big thing was, hey, we can use an MPLS switch. So in other words, instead of using routing, we use switching technology to switch the MPLS packets. So in those cases, we actually got improvements. We got a piece of hardware that could switch those MPLS packets much quicker than let me phrase it. They can switch more packets per second than a router can, and therefore it was cheaper. Now, we don't really see that in many other products because the switching systems and the software systems are the same. So we don't really see that the MPLS systems is actually doing anything better or faster. It is possible that there's less CPU time. Therefore, you would get more capacity. But it's not going to be, quote, faster. Okay? With that said, most of our ISPs that we deal with, that many of our customers deal with, do not run many different tunnel technologies. In other words, you're not sitting there building, 200 tunnels for a company inside your area to have a private network. We don't see that a whole lot. Now, as your network grows, you're going to see that more and more, and that's a good thing. But until you get to the size in which that is a significant part of your business, do we think that adding all this is a good thing? In generality, no, it's not. If your business is to sell these types of circuits, then of course, yes, it is, because that technology is definitely excellent as well, and should be used quite a bit. So, these are just some good general questions as well on those particular issues. So with that said, again, we have a pretty slow week. We're just getting started back up since we had the holidays off. I hope everybody can listen in. Definitely next week we're going to have the Nathan Stuke talking about over-the-top TV technologies, and I'm sure that Sling TV will be brought up next week as well. Should be very interesting to hear about that as well. Since we don't have any other questions, and we're pretty short on, we're not short on time, but we are pretty short on our topic today, we'll probably make this day a pretty quick one. I do appreciate everybody that is listening, and if you do have any questions, you can, of course, email us at sales@ispradio.com as well. With that, ladies and gentlemen, take it easy. I hope everybody had a great holiday, and I hope to see everybody back next week.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.